What's next for the Carolina Code Conference? First off, have you had a good time this year? All right. Now, I know everybody is itching to get to dinner, itching to get to your evening activities, so I'm not going to make them all come up on stage. But can all of our volunteers please raise your hand? This conference would not have come together without the immense help of a lot of people in this community, from the volunteers to the people who helped with planning, to the people who helped with fundraising, to the people who made connections, to the people who helped us advertise and got involved in social media. It has all come from a community effort, and so thank you for buying in and making this thing work. Ultimately, there were a lot of details to move with this thing, and the experience that you've all gotten to have here today, person who's been running that all behind the scenes is my wife, Christy, back there, and she is entirely responsible. She is entirely responsible for making sure that this day ran smoothly, as well as putting together everything to host a speaker's dinner at our house last night that also went without a hitch. And so thank you very much. You're getting applauded. She's not even paying attention. We'll fill you in from the recording later. All right, so you may have known, and one last applause. Again, thank you to our sponsors. They paid for all of this, so give them a huge round of applause. Now, you may have noticed that while I was plugging sponsors all day, I didn't really mention our platinum sponsor hardly at all. There's a reason for that you're going to find out about very shortly. But first, let's talk about what the future of this conference looks like. I think all of us can agree that Greenville's a very special place. A lot of people are figuring it out too because they won't stop moving here. Greenville's been about the fourth fastest growing city in the United States for something like the last 5 or 6 years running. It's been ridiculous, and the real estate prices reflect that. But this is a wonderful community. It's a community that really supports each other, that brings together, that clearly wants events like this to succeed and to happen. I've heard from people in other cities that it is not like this in their communities. You'll have a lot more isolation, a lot more competition, a lot more siloing between what they're doing. And we really have something special here. And I think we need to very seriously consider growing the reach of this conference moving forward. In the past, we've had a single-day conference. It's been a single day on a Saturday with about 100 to 150 people. And that's been good. It's been good. And what we really need to talk about, though, is what we want to do going forward. We happen to be at the upper corner of South Carolina, which puts us in the quad state reach of South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee. Within 3 hours of us, we have access to Charlotte, Atlanta, Knoxville, Columbia. We don't really need to talk about Columbia, but but really, we're in a spot to have a really good reach to a lot of other people. Not too much farther away, we've got Chattanooga, bringing in people like Bruce and Maggie. Charleston, not much farther away. And if you extend to driving time distance, there's a lot of people very close to us that we have the opportunity to bring together into this type of environment. It makes you wonder what type of a difference it can make. And we want to keep this conference right here in Greenville and continue to bring people into Greenville. But we need a sustainable cost structure to do that. There are very distinctive per head costs per day that go along with expanding the conference, with expanding head count. From food costs to the venue size to accommodate to a number of other things, to being able to include the swag in the ticket price, for example. And the conference has been free. in order for us to grow, we are going to have a ticket price. We're going to have a ticket that can make sure that we're going to have the budget to accommodate the people who are coming without having to go, all right, we grew, now we have to have twice as many sponsors. It would be nice if we could do that, but it's not easy. So, additionally, as you pull speakers from out of town, they need places to stay. We've been lucky to have some people who came in and were willing to pay their own way to be here because they recognize the importance of what we're doing. But we would like to be able to accommodate those speakers when they come in. When they get picked, we definitely want this to be a big honor, and that's one of the reasons that we want to keep the format as a single track format. Single track format when everybody's in the same room. We all have the same points of reference. I don't know how many of you have done conference speaking before in the past, but I've had the opportunity to give the exact same talk at 2 different conferences 2 weeks in a row about 3 years ago. One of them was a 3,000 person 8-track conference, and the other one was a 200 person conference. And the 3,000 person 8-track conference, I was giving a talk about email security. And when you get picked for a conference, you get all excited, you make all the preparations, you're ready to speak, you're working on your presentation, you're so excited. And then you get there and you realize that you're competing with everybody in your time slot. And when you're giving a talk on email security, you're not winning that competition. So I went to that 3,000 person 8-track conference. I had a room that would hold 200 people and 5 people showed up. And then I gave the exact same talk at a 200 person conference that was single track that had a bunch of other email people there. And the talk was really well received, and all the speakers interacted referencing their other talks. And it was wonderful. It was a completely different experience. And we want to preserve that. And I think the intermingling format of the different time slots has actually been, I think we've proven today that this works. And we want to keep it going, but we need to grow it. We also need volunteers. We're going to need volunteers to sustain this. There's a clear picture of the division of responsibilities of things that can be done here. Small work to big work, everything from doing some social media work, just putting people in touch with sponsors, getting people engaged in conversations, to projects like building ridiculously complex conference websites, just because it would be fun to show off and go, hey, we did this thing for no reason other than we thought it'd be cool. And in this community, people respond to that, right? I mean, we like doing things just because we can. That's half the point. And so we should. But there's other factors that are going to come in with those expenses. As soon as you start charging, you don't get free access to the tools because you're not having a free ticket. We'll have to pay for Sessionize. We'll have to pay for our ticketing system. We're going to have to pay taxes on it. That goes along with it too. And so there's a lot of moving pieces to it. But what could we do with a full year to promote this conference? Because in the past, this conference has always operated on a 3 or 4 month timeline. And so it's always been a scramble to get the venue, to get things moving, and to get sponsors. Because one thing that I learned this year, working with our sponsors, is that the bigger sponsors have their budget set at the beginning of the year. And if you're not in it at the beginning of their fiscal year, you're not getting in. There was a lot of people who had that conversation with me and were kind enough to put me in touch with other people who sponsored in their place, and that was wonderful. But people need to know exactly when it's happening at the end of the year, or the sponsorships will not come in. So, True Light Photography. You've been seeing the live streams, you've been seeing the work. He's been telling me about the quality of the photos that are coming in. The venue has really worked out. I think the exact thing that you told me earlier was that these are almost look like stock photos. They've come out so good. Take advantage of those live streams. I'm not going to claim any type of random ownership rights that you can't use them. If you see yourself in a picture, if you want to post something and share it on social media, do it. Just tag us, please. Help us grow that social media presence when you do. And if you want to promote True Light Photography when you do it too, that'd be great, because he's almost doing this for fun for the rates he's charging me, which I really appreciate. But also, professionally produced videos, there's a definite quality difference. And if you've gone and looked at talks on YouTube, you know the difference between the talks that you look at. The quality of the video engages you and the editing engages you just as much as the speakers and the talkers do. It's a combination. There's a reason you're not just listening to the talk, you're watching it. And Aaron Pate Media has been here with his full crew today. They've got multiple camera angles. They're capturing things. They're helping to manage the difficulties of everything. And they're going to be taking care of the post-editing process and everything for us as well to get this thing done. And I'm very excited to see what that comes to. With that, we're going to have a lot of videos to promote on social media as well to grow the attention of the conference. And one of the big cores of that is the balance of speakers that we have, because ultimately getting on this stage should be something that lets us amplify you and the messages that you want to get out. Because y'all are doing amazing, interesting things. More people need to know about it. The biggest difference between this area and Silicon Valley is there's a lot of people that do nothing but just talk about everything that's happening in Silicon Valley. So we're going to do that here. So yeah, keep tagging us and sharing us when you do things in the future. But content. I never did marketing at all before this event. And I'm learning all sorts of stuff about it. But the biggest thing is that you need content. You need things to share that people want to hear about. So there's a new project that we're going to be launching this week. The Carolina Codecast. We're doing a podcast. And we've got the first episode put together. It's going to be an interview with Joel, talking about the origins of the conference. It's a very simple format. We basically are hopping on a video call. And we had Herd Media here in Greenville actually help put this together for us. They did it for free, and they do this. They manage podcasts. They let you record your videos, send it over to them. They take care of all the editing and promotion and distribution for you. And if you're ever looking at starting a podcast and you want some professional help with it, please talk to them, because they've been invaluable. I still have no idea how to run podcasts, but I have a lot better ideas than I did before. And so that episode will launch this week, and you can hear all about the origins of the Carolina Code Conference from Joel. But in order to have a full year to promote, you've got to go back to step one in our initial to-do list. You have to have a venue, and you have to have a date. And now, thanks to our platinum sponsor, Flywheel, we have that. And Crescent, I should say. So this time of year actually worked out really well for us this year. You know, you hear August in the South and you immediately think it's going to just be awful weather. But this has turned out to be a really, really nice day. The time of year, kids are back in school for the most part, so people have their weekends free, their summer vacations are kind of over. Football season critically has not started yet. And so we're going to try to keep it the same time next year. And so we have a date and a venue. So August 23rd and 24th of 2024, we're going to expand to 2 days. That's a Friday and a Saturday next year. And we're going to be hosting it at the Crescent One building. That's going to give us capacity for 300 tickets, 298, but just shy of 300 tickets. So we're going to double in size from this year. And doubling in size does not just mean doubling in Greenville. We want to pull from the surrounding area. This is an area where we really need your help. Visiting the various meetup groups is hugely important. I don't know all the various meetup groups in Tennessee, in North Carolina, in Georgia, Charleston, foreign lands like Colombia. Sorry, the Clemson doesn't go away. But seriously, we need people who are willing to find out when these things are, and then go. And most of these meetups are very happy to have you spend 5 minutes talking about your event and why you want them to be included in it. We very much want the meetups to be involved. We've got great work being done by Jen and Pam and everybody involved and there's a lot more than that. There's a whole lot of people who've been involved in driving this thing. But we're trying to get the meetups in the Greenville area really under kind of a more organized umbrella to increase discoverability and just provide support to the people who run meetups. Because if you've run a meetup before, it's exhausting. You start at one time, you say, all right, we're doing this, and you might have 3 people show up. The next week you might have the next month you might not have anybody, and then 2 months later you might have 20 people. You just never know. And the preparation and getting ready for that is exhausting. And you need support to make those meetups work and to sustain them. And so kudos to Jim for really driving a lot of that forward. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of Hat Greenville Nights that should try to pull together a lot of the meetups, but also just everything in the Hat Greenville Slack forums is wonderful. And we need to extend that reach to other areas as well to pull them into the conference. One of the biggest things, though, is that in order to grow, we have to not shrink. All of you are critical to this process. And so how many of you are familiar at all with how the Masters ticketing process works? Golf tournament? One. All right. Essentially, when you get a Masters ticket, you keep a Masters ticket unless you just decide not to renew it. So for every attendee at the conference, you will have early access to tickets next year, as well as 20% discount. And that will maintain for the following year and the following year and the following year and the following year. As long as you're there, you will not have to worry about getting on the wait list. And also, a lot of people returned tickets this year because they weren't able to go so somebody else could come. They get that access too because they did a good thing returning that and making sure somebody else could come. They don't need to miss out on it for that reason. So I want to be very clear about that. Since the tickets will cost money, I can pay volunteers with tickets. So that would be really nice. Because we don't really have a lot of budget to pay them with anything else. But there's other aspects that will go along with this too. When people are coming in for a 2-day conference, they stay overnight, which means we can have our evening activities in the night in between. It also means people will book hotel rooms. There are initiatives in this area when you have an event that brings people to town to book hotel rooms, where they will also help to subsidize the event and help to stabilize and maintain it long term. So 2024 is going to be a make or break year. The Crescent One building has a lot of history as well. And so it's really fun that we're going to get to do this event there. It was originally the Pepsi-Cola bottling plant in Greenville, and later the Piedmont Shirt Factory. And these both resulted in a lot of economic development for the area at that time. They're turning it into something big. It's going to become an innovation entrepreneurial hub, essentially a startup incubator and co-working space with a really interesting setup as a conference venue. I've seen the full plans for the conference layout. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be it's going to be fun. It's really well done, and it's going to be a unique experience for everybody who can make it there for it. And with that, I would like to welcome Olivia from Flywheel up to say a few words.
Hi, everyone. I'll be super quick because you touched on pretty much everything. But yeah, we're really excited to have all of you at Flywheel at Crescent One next year. Like you said, our event space is going to hold exactly 300 people, so we have to book it out. It's going to be our first big event there, so we're really honored that you chose us as the location. At Flywheel, we believe in community, and so being able to support you guys as a community is huge to us. I know I got to speak to a lot of you in person just about our vision for the space, but we're really excited to get to show it off at the start of next year. And we're excited to have you all there. We will be doing, if you haven't gotten a chance to sign up for our newsletter, there's a QR code out there at the table. And we will be doing, as the year continues on and as next year starts, tours of the location, so you can come check it out even while it's under construction, and then you'll get to see what the event space currently is with probably bricks and construction everywhere, and then get to come back and see what it ultimately will be. But yeah, we're really excited to have you all, and I will be there as the community manager, so I'm excited to see you all next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's a wrap.